You released your annual coaching hot seat rankings today. Just a refresher on how the ranking system goes. It's 0 to 5, 0 you're untouchable, basically zero chance of being fired, 5 being the hottest. And for reference, he does it every year. Last year, 7 of the 8 coaches who got a 4 or a 5 were fired. A trio of coaches on the hottest of seats this year, according to Dennis. Indiana's Tom Allen and West Virginia's Neil Brown. The Mountaineers coming off their worst back-to-back seasons since the 70s, Dennis. Are these guys as good as gone?
Yeah, I mean, no, look, you've got to win, but there are circumstances in each job which suggest they're on thin ice. And I take no pride in that morbid predictive ability. 7 out of 8 last year. Only Dino Babers made it through, but there is some accuracy to it. Yeah, Neil Brown with a new AD, that's probably the biggest thing. Ren Baker's the new AD there. He lost his AD, Shane Lyons, who basically got fired because he wanted to retain Neil Brown. And now, as I said, 3 or 4 years losing. The last time they had back-to-back losing seasons since 78, 79. And so he's got to win now. They've got to get more exciting. If the Big 12 is now hipper, sexier, and cooler, West Virginia is not that, and they should be better. I think everybody agrees with that. As far as Tom Allen, he's a defensive guy. They haven't been better in the Big Ten offensively. They haven't been better than 10th since 2018, so it's been pretty bad. That one standout year in 2020, Michael Penix led them to a 6-2 record. Since then, they've won only 2 Big Ten games. The buyout is sizable, but I think, Chris, we agree that we're beyond the days of monster buyouts, especially at these power schools, bothering these schools.
And hard to believe just 2 years ago, Indiana was a top 25 preseason team, but it's gone downhill since then. Some of the bigger names rung below at your number 4, and that would include A&M's Jimbo Fisher. He has a monstrous buyout, signed that super long, super large contract. What kind of a season would put him in danger this year?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the boosters are going to rally up and pay him $75 million because that's what he would have left after this season on a buyout. He's in year 6 of a renegotiated 10-year contract. I was told, I've already written it, like 8-4 will get him by. Kind of depends on who he beats in those 8. But after 5-7 and an absolute crater job, that would be improving. He can't survive, I don't think, a 6-6. The 7-5, he'd be right on the line for a decision. But again, I think a bad enough season would rally those boosters to get that money. And gosh knows, A&M has the money. So it takes $75 million to buy them out. They are very good, Chris. Connor Wegman, the sophomore quarterback, is good. Best one he's had while at A&M. A bevy of difference-making receivers. And that number 1 recruiting class, which was the best ever, remember, 2 years ago, is now starting to pay off on the defensive line.
And one more coach on that 4 line, Dino Babers of Syracuse, the only one, as you mentioned, who survived last year on that 4 or 5 line. You kept him right there. As for a coach who's already under pressure, who just took over, go to the 3 line here, and it's Brent Venables at Oklahoma after a losing season in year 1, 6-7. How patient are the folks in Norman going to be if they have another disappointing season launching into the SEC?
I would predict he wouldn't survive because of those reasons. Because of, obviously, OU should be better. And then going into the SEC, the fact that Brent Venables, as good as he was at Clemson, is still a first-time head coach going into year 2. Lincoln Riley, in his second season, won the Big 12 for the 2nd consecutive time and went to the playoff for the 2nd consecutive time. No one thinks that's going to happen at OU this year, but there has to be improvement. Brent Venables was hired because of his defensive acumen. OU was 121st in defense last year. I don't know if they've ever been that bad. So this is starting to get into John Blake territory. Do you remember that? The worst 3-year run in OU history back in the 90s. So if he doesn't improve very quickly, I don't know if 7-5 gets it done, Chris. They've got some players. They went into the portal to get a lot of players on defense. Offensively, they're okay, but they have to fix things defensively, especially in the Big 12. We know what the custom is there, what the culture is there, all offense.
All right, Big 12 Media Days gets going on Wednesday, and Dennis will be off to SEC Media Days next week. We are ramping up to college football season. You can find the entire coaching hot seat list on CBSSports.com along with explanations. By the way, Pat Fitzgerald was a 4 before everything came out this past weekend. So he would have been on the hot seat already. That made it a little bit easier, I think, for Northwestern to cut the cord so quickly. Cover 3 podcast Summer School Series, continuing with Bud Elliott, the latest episode on the 2-time defending Big Ten champs from Michigan.